This is Blanca. She's my very sweet golden retriever, and she turns 12 this year. So I wanted to do a painting that I'll be able to enjoy while she's still around, and she's still very active. She goes on bike rides and long hikes and runs and walks with me, so she's still good, but I wanted something that I could remember her by when she's gone. All the other dogs her size that we got in the family and friends at the same time are already gone, so I feel very lucky that she's doing so good. But I want to create a painting that I can look at all the time and just say, yep, that's my Blanca. I started this adventure by taking many pictures of Blanca because I went through all my old files and I just didn't have one of her in quite the right pose. So I went out on the porch, had my husband help me by guiding her in certain directions, and just took picture after picture. I finally picked two that I really liked, and I brought it up in Photoshop on my tablet, and I just did an outline of it with my little surface pen there. And it took a couple of tries to get it right. Her fur was kind of light against some of the background, but I got basically an outline that I really liked. And then I did this with another one as well, which I think I cut out because I didn't end up using it. And then I selected just that outline. I should have just done it in a new layer, but I forgot to do that on this one. So I went around and selected the whole outline and pasted it into a new document. And then I just made selection squares of each piece of her that would equate to about one piece of paper, 8.5 by 11, that I could put through my printer. And here are all the pieces you can see. For this painting, I'll be using my 18 by 24 Arches cold press 140 pound. This is a block. So I imagine because it's so big, it will still warp quite a bit because I'm going to be using a lot of water on this, but better than not glued down. So here are all the separated pieces. Just have to put them all together. And then we can put it on our paper. So basically, we just have to cut and paste and figure out where they all go. I actually happen to own big sheets of 18 by 24 graphite paper, and make sure you do use graphite, in my opinion, and not carbon paper, because carbon has a wax base to it, and it will mess up your watercolor. So this is graphite. It can be erased, watercolored over, the whole 9 yards. And you can see I just checked my outline there. It was a little too light. I actually ended up having to outline it twice. So apparently with this brand, you can press pretty hard on your graphite paper. And that's how it turned out. And these are my supplies for the day. My core watercolor paints, because I want it to be vibrant. My sushi plate I got at the thrift store. 2 containers of water. My big Arches pad. 2 hockey brushes. And I have the tape there, but I only used it on the part where you stick the ruler in to pull the paper up. And I haven't mentioned it yet, but you probably noticed from the thumbnail of this video, this is a very abstract dog. And in this whole painting process, I only used 4 colors: cadmium yellow primrose, quinacridone magenta, dioxazine purple, and phthalo blue green shade. And these are all core paints like I mentioned a second ago. One supply I forgot to mention was my spray bottle. I used that a lot to just kind of spread out the pigment. I wanted this to be very loose and flowy, and you saw how it worked there on the dioxazine purple. It just creates a really nice effect that I later go in and sharpen these areas of the paintings. I've learned a lot by doing this painting. I need to keep the darks on the bottom and the light on the top, or the opposite if your light's coming from a different area. Even in an abstract painting, your light source is very important. You'll notice as I go through this process that I end up changing a lot of things, and I will explain more about that in a minute. When I initially laid down all the color on the dog portion of this painting, I used that new hockey brush that I got in the haul video, and I'll put a link up to that in the corner. And then to refine things, I brought out my favorite size 12 round brush. This is a Winsor & Newton Cotman size 12. It's synthetic, and I really, really love it. I didn't go and choose this brush. It chose me when it came with my Winsor & Newton Professional watercolor kit that I bought, and I really enjoy it. So it's one I pull out all the time. And what you're seeing on the screen right now is just me refining things. And then I think I'm about done. At least I feel like it at this point. So I put on a bunch of spatters. And I start with the phthalo blue, go to the quinacridone magenta, and the dioxazine purple. And I totally forget to do any yellow spatters, and you'll see more about that later. So here I am pulling some spatters off of the dog, and I want her face to look exactly like her face, so I refine that even more. These are the covers to my light boxes that I have on my desk. And I got spatter all over them. So I'm always terrible when I spatter. It's on everything, my computer, all over the desk. me. So, I don't know. Be careful when you do it. Don't be like me. And here it is dry. So there are a few things I do want to change. This is a little harsh in my opinion, as is this. And I kind of like this dark shadow there. I might leave that. But this piece of purple is basically in the wrong place for what it is. So I don't like that. I thought I saw some blue somewhere that I didn't like. Oh yeah, right here. So I'll be altering that real quick and probably call it a day on this one. What I am most distressed about though is that my block came apart. So I don't think paper this large likes that much water. So I have rubber cement on order because I don't own any. And I will just clip it together and rubber cement it. And then I may clip it if I'm going to use a lot of water in the future. Just clip it and do the project maybe a 1/2 inch in with the white border and tape like we usually do. So yeah, it came apart. It's very sad. It's an expensive block of paper to come apart, but I've heard that rubber cement will fix all our problems. Now I have to find my paintbrush. All right, I located the paintbrush in the kitchen of all places and worked on those things that were bothering me. And I added a bit more paint in a few other areas as well and just kept fiddling with it because it needed it, in my opinion. Yes, in my professional opinion, it needed fiddled with. One of my favorite things about this painting is the face right here. I wanted the nose definitely to be darker in the lower jaw so that we could definitely get the shape of her face, and then I intentionally kept that spot light so that maybe that could represent her eye. So even though this is supposed to be very abstract, I wanted those few elements kept in there because it needs to be recognizable. And some of this looks a little more bright and vibrant on this camera. Like this looks like just a yellow stripe on the camera, but in person it's nicely faded out on each side. And yeah, I don't know how to get that right, but it looks kind of weird in the camera. Makes me think maybe I should change it. Alright, so I set it on top of a cabinet against the wall so that I could get a better feel for it. And this is all wrong. And I think it needs more yellow, so actually I'm going to get a more scrubby brush here. It's a very staining color. The part of the spatter that got onto the light diffuser cover things, it didn't come out, not with soap or anything, so I don't want to scrub my paper too much there, but let's see if I put some yellow on this. How green it turns. I hope not very. Pretty much as I expected though, it did turn green, but I actually really liked it, so I was pretty happy with that. So I added a little bit more yellow here and there, and then some other colors. You'll see, I just kind of go through and fiddle some more, because that's what I'm good at with this painting. Just messing here, messing there, working this, working that. It still looks really weird in the camera. I don't know why, but I have an idea. Because it was showing that way in the camera and it kind of struck me as being wrong, I decided to cover it with a little bit of that magenta. I just thought it needed it. It was an odd place for bright yellow to be anyway. Alright, after one more trip to the cabinet, leaning against the wall, this foot, even though this is how it was in my reference majigger, looks too small. And I think it's because I came down too far back here, where it was actually like up here and came down, because she kind of has her foot lifted up to move it. And so I'm just going to make that over here instead, just a little bit bigger. That is better, except even though we couldn't really see her back foot in the picture, this one really needs to have it, and that makes me nervous. Well, nervousness or not, she needs a foot, so we're putting it in and crossing our fingers. Alright, back from leaning against the wall one more time, because we are good at that. Having it lean against the wall at eye height was really helpful to see what might need changed. Alright, so one thing in person is this blue here. I need a scrubber brush. This blue is making the back paw like disappear. The bamboo paper towels are nice for dabbing your brush, but they don't soak up what you're lifting off, so you really just need a real paper towel for that. So I just continue lifting and refining the foot shape a little bit here. And then this blue up here is really distracting, which is a bummer because that's very staining. I have to go get fresh water. It was important to get fresh water because when I'm lifting, I can't have dirty water because it will just put the color right back on the paper. And you can see here that I added even more yellow and refined the air a little bit more. Oh, that's better, but now this pink blob needs to be different. And the main reason I'm showing you all of this and this process is so that you know that we don't just pull out a painting lickety-split. It takes some process, some looking at, refining, redoing, over and over again. Alright, are you screaming at me yet to just leave it alone, leave it alone? Too bad. Too bad. So, after that little diatribe here, we are putting shadows under her feet because I am not done messing with the painting. And then finally, I think I am done, and so I grab a purple Prismacolor colored pencil and sign my name with it. And then I have to go sharpen the pencil and redo it. It's at this point that I think, oh, I'm actually done. But my husband came home, I had it up on the cabinet against the wall again. He's like, what's this big dot on her face? Well, I didn't even notice that dot. I did that when I was spattering the purple, and I didn't even see it. It was like I was blind to it. It was so weird. And then he also thought her back, where the yellow meets the background, needed a little bit more refinement. So I did that real quick. I didn't film it because it was late at night and I just did it. But then I let it sit overnight and I found a few million other things I wanted to change, including where was the yellow spatter? How did I leave that out? I wanted yellow spatter. So I did yellow spatter and then just got rid of that big pink blob on her side near her top hip, and because it just looked so weird after sitting overnight. I'm like, that pink has got to go. So I messed with a few other things, got rid of a halo around her mouth and near her rear end that had kind of a hard edge I didn't like, and this is what I ended up with. And I figure I will try and matte it with this color. I really like it. I played with that in Photoshop. So I've ordered 2 different mattes and 2 different photo frames that should be arriving soon that I can try it out in, and then I can put this somewhere in the house. I haven't decided where, but in a future video when I have it all hung up, I will show you guys. Thanks so much for joining me and spending all this time with me. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and definitely consider subscribing if you like this kind of content. I put out videos twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. I will see you guys in the next video. This is so funny. Oh.